Hey everybody, Tim here, coming at you live for a special two-part episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 5, Episodes 7 and 8, Unification. So, this is a really important episode because a lot goes down in this one, so that's why I wanted to do this one live. And because doing live episodes is fun. Unfortunately, I have so many notes, I'm hoping my Wi-Fi lasts, because if you guys have seen my other live videos, sometimes it starts to kind of crap out towards the end. So, if you guys watch the YouTube, so my YouTube, these are all in order. On Facebook, they're going to be a little bit out of order. So, episode 7, if you go back to episode 5, that was the last episode that aired before Gene Roddenberry passed. And then episode 6 came out. For Unification, it starts with a very simple, like the space background with the blue writing. And it said, just Gene Roddenberry, 1921 to 1991. So I liked how they had that memorial for Gene Roddenberry. So this is the kind of a famous episode because this is the episode of The Next Generation where Spock is introduced. Now, I didn't know this. I did some of the research before I did this or wanted to talk to you guys about this one. So in the pilot, Encounters at Farpoint, I just lost his name. DeForest Kelley makes an appearance as Bones, presumably Bones. He's just referred to as the Admiral. Well, I guess they had been trying to get some other actors to appear, and Leonard Nimoy, it sounds like, I mean, the way I read it, it was kind of a douche move, but he basically said he wouldn't do The Next Generation unless they paid him $1 million. And, I mean, The Next Generation, especially when it first started, did not have, like, a huge budget. So they were just like, nope, and moved along. So this two-parter came out roughly within a month of the 6th movie, The Undiscovered Country, which at this point, like, Leonard Nimoy was a producer of all of the movies, especially once he started directing them. And so they kind of approached him as, you know, if you're in The Next Generation, we can use that as a teaser for the movie to kind of bring more awareness to it. So he finally agreed to do The Next Generation for basically the basic salary pay. So, I don't know. To me, that seems kind of sketchy, but whatever. At least we get him. Besides DeForest Kelley, and I mean, besides the obvious, like, Dr. Polanski and Majel Barrett as Loaxana Troi, this is the first actual character from the original series to go into The Next Generation. And it's interesting because this episode actually kind of is prolific. He kind of references the 6th movie, because I mean at this point they were done filming it and everything, and he says like, oh, I was part of the delegation with the Klingon Alliance and so forth. So that's a clear reference. And then this whole movie is about Spock trying to be a diplomat to the Romulans, which when we get to the J.J. Abrams 2009 movie, that he's still carrying on in that mission. So it's kind of interesting how the two things that he's doing in this episode continue on through the series. That's the bad part about doing live videos, is I have to drink all the time. So what I like about this, so I kind of have my notes. The way I do this is I watch the episode and I'm typing the whole time, my notes. So my notes are kind of in order of the way they happen in the series. So what I liked about this is it starts like the teaser, before the opening credits, Spock is in there. Like, he's just a picture, but you know that Leonard Nimoy is going to be part of this episode. So I liked how they threw that in there right away. It's not built up, it's not dramatic. They just go right into it. That, by the way, this is going to be an important episode. And then from there, so you're already like excited, because you have that anticipation, like, oh my God, Leonard Nimoy's going to be in this. And then they kind of do a little bit of a curveball because Mark Lenard shows up as Sarek. Now this is his 2nd appearance as Sarek, and you're like, what? Like, this is crazy. It's like an original series reunion going on. So now it's kind of a sequel episode to Season 3 with the episode called Sarek, where we know that Sarek is dying, and he does like a mind meld with Picard to kind of purge his emotion. And so now we see Sarek, and it's a very heartbreaking scene because his emotions have overwhelmed him and he's dying now. He's like literally on his deathbed. And it's very sad because this is the last time we see Mark Lenard reprise that role as Sarek. So from there, we realize that Spock is kind of defected, or at least that's what we think is going on, is that he has run away to Romulus, which this is the first time that we've really seen or heard of the Romulan homeworld. So Data and Picard have to go to Romulus to basically track down Spock. And I just noticed you guys are commenting, sorry. Michael, I've had this shirt for like 10 plus years. I don't remember. Probably threadless. Hello, Joshua. And hello, Miguel. So this is the first time we've really seen Romulus. And it's kind of an interesting thing because Picard and Data have to get like cosmetic surgery to go down to the Romulan homeworld, which is, I thought, interesting because if you go back to the original series, Kirk had Romulan cosmetic surgery to kind of blend in. So I liked how Picard is kind of following in Kirk's footsteps, which I think that's the only episode in the original series, now that I think about it, where they do that cosmetic surgery to blend in. And I kind of got a little bit ahead of myself. So they have to contact Chancellor Gowron, I don't know, I don't speak Klingon anymore, for a cloaked vessel to get to the Romulan homeworld. And that's interesting because we're kind of talking about how the Federation does not have a cloaked ship. Once we get into like Deep Space Nine, we realize that that's part of the treaty. So it's kind of interesting. They don't talk about it yet, but clearly the Federation does not have one yet. Which, as we get into the 6th season, we realize that's not even true. So anyways, while all of this is going on, we have a subplot where Riker has to go to a junkyard. And it's such a great scene where you see all of these like broken ships. And it's kind of interesting to read about how they got them, where some of them are from old episodes and old movies, and some of them they just took like a model and rearranged parts of it to just get this scene. And they're looking for a stolen Vulcan ship called the T'Pau. And like that kind of sparked something in the back of my brain, and I couldn't remember exactly where, so I had to look it up. And that's T'Pau from the original series, Amok Time. And then it was like a flash. I was like, oh yeah, it's the lady, the woman. And we see T'Pau again. Presumably it's named after her. We see her again when we get to Enterprise. So I just think that's interesting. And that basically ended part 1. And as we go into part 2, let's see. Sorry, I gotta go through my notes. Usually this is why I record all my videos, so I'm more prepared. So it's interesting. So at this point, we have now seen Spock, and Sela. Is it Sela? Sela? I don't know. They only say her name once, and I'm so bad at pronunciations. Tasha Yar's daughter makes a brief appearance. So we know that she's involved now, because it's the Romulans, so of course she's going to be involved. So now we realize that Spock is trying to unify Romulans and Vulcans, which we learned back in the original series, that they started out kind of together, and then they branched apart, and then they just kept separating. So now, even biologically speaking, they don't even share anything in common. If you go back to the Next Generation episode where Dr. Crusher's trying to heal a Romulan, she says that she checked with the Vulcan crew, and like their blood types aren't even compatible. Romulans are closer to Klingons now than they are Vulcans. So Spock is trying to bring together the Romulans and the Vulcans together for reunification. Hence the title. So kind of going back a little bit, sorry, this is what happens, my notes are everywhere. When we went back to the first episode where McCoy makes an appearance, it's really interesting because he refers to Data as a Vulcan. Like he says, like, oh, you don't have points in your ears, but you sound like a Vulcan, I know. So when we finally see Data and Spock together, oh my god, like some of their dialogue together is the best dialogue ever. Where, if you guys saw the episode where my mod bro Joshua and I did in Deja Q, where Q's talking to Data about what I got in disgrace is what you aspire to be. This conversation with Spock took it one more step further, where Spock is talking to Data and he says, you aspire to be, Vulcans aspire to what you were given by design. And Data is like, well, you're half human and you chose to be a Vulcan, so you have abandoned what I've sought all my life. And it's some of the most like amazing dialogue. It's such a good scene where they're just talking together and they realize that one of them has abandoned humanity and one of them wants it, but they both are kind of on equal playing fields. It's really, really well done. To kind of go through, so from here everything just kind of snowballs. Like the first part of this is kind of it's like a roller coaster. Like it's a really slow climb, and then when you get to part 2, everything happens very quickly. So on the subplot, Riker and the crew are looking for this Vulcan spaceship, and they realize like a Ferengi's involved, and they have to track him down, which is a really interesting scene because there's the 4-armed piano player, and Worf is singing Klingon opera, which is a really funny scene. And then, so to kind of go back to the main, so that's a great scene, but the main plot. I was really sad that this is the final appearance of Tasha Yar's daughter, because we saw her in the cameo episode Point of View. We saw her when she introduced herself to Picard, and we've seen her in this. So she's only in like 5 episodes total. I mentioned that in one of the comments, and I think it was Jamie commented that too much of a good thing could be bad, and I completely agree with that statement. But I kind of did wish like she would have done more, because I know Denise Crosby regretted leaving The Next Generation, and I love how they found a way to get her back in. But I feel like Sela could have done more. Like she could have been that big bad to last, maybe not the entire series, but definitely to have gone further than what she did. Personally, I think she could have even like held her own movie, but that's just me. So from here, there's some really great scenes where they use holograms to kind of throw people off. You see Data do the Vulcan pinch to knock somebody out. I believe this is the first time we've ever seen a non-Vulcan do that, which that seems good and bad, because Spock comes out, does the neck pinch, and the guy drops. Picard does this really bad, like, frontal punch. Anytime Picard swings a punch, it's really bad. I'm sorry. I love Patrick Stewart, but it's bad. And then we have Data do the neck pinch, and he does it, and the guy drops, and Spock in classic Leonard Nimoy fashion is like, not bad. And it's just really funny. It made me laugh, because, I mean, only Leonard Nimoy can do that nonchalant acting so well. Like, I think it's Undiscovered Country where he goes, like, to hell with our orders. Like, I don't know, Leonard Nimoy just had that charisma that he brought to the role of Spock that nobody else can do. Like, we've seen, 3 actors now? We've seen Leonard Nimoy, we've seen, I just lost his name. I can't believe I lost his name. From the J.J. Abrams movies, and now we have Ethan Peck in Discovery. So we've seen 3 different Spocks, and I gotta say, Leonard Nimoy always has that thing about him that he just had as an actor. Zachary Quinto, thank you. Zachary, like all 3, like, and I'm not saying Ethan Peck and Zachary Quinto are bad, but Leonard Nimoy just had that thing about him that brought the role. And like, if you go to like Invasion of the Body Snatchers or Mission Impossible, anything that Leonard Nimoy's in, he's such a great actor that, I mean, he will forever be missed. So from there, and so during all of this, Sela, if you guys know how to pronounce her name, I don't know how, Tasha Yar's daughter, has a plan to get all of these Romulans to basically invade the Vulcan Empire. But because of Data and Picard and Spock seeing through their plan, the Enterprise is able to basically intervene. But before they can, a Romulan ship like decloaks and kills or shoots, explodes these 3 Vulcan ships, and then cloaks and runs away. Which to me, that was kind of dumb, because it's like instantaneous, and you're telling me that the Enterprise couldn't have done anything in the time it took to decloak, fire 3 times, and cloak again? Like, come on. But they say, like, the Romulans killed over 2,000 of their own soldiers just to avoid being captured. And also, I believe this might be the first time we've seen a Vulcan ship. I'm not 100% sure about that. But it was kind of an interesting thing. I liked... My notes are so scattered because I'm not prepared. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. I'm not ready. So, Spock, as a teaser... Oh, this should have gone back to the beginning. Picard had mentioned in the Sarek episode that he met Spock at his son's wedding. And Picard mentions how he's met Spock one time before, but he doesn't mention the wedding this time. Because I don't think they had ever thought they were going to get Leonard Nimoy. So they were like, oh shit, should we bring up that he's married now? And so I kind of liked that. I thought that was a little interesting. Because to me, in my mind, Saavik has like little Spock Jr. on Vulcan. But that's just me. Okay, so that's basically the plot and the random trivia. As far as this episode, it's such a good episode. I know it's a two-parter, but I always think of two-parters as one long episode. Like I said, I feel like Leonard Nimoy didn't necessarily want to do this episode, but he wanted to promote his last movie. So he was like, oh, I can do one episode. Because of his schedule, they actually filmed Unification 2 before Part 1. Just to kind of make it... just to kind of make it flow a little bit better for him, because they were just catering to his every need. But yeah, overall, I feel like this was a really well done episode. And like I said, so this is the first episode of an original series actor to come back. And I feel like this was kind of the stepping stone for that. Because from here, I mean, next season, we get Scotty showing up. When we get to Deep Space Nine, we have all sorts of, like, secondary actors showing up. Like, all three of the Klingons and stuff like that. And then when we get to Voyager, I mean, even Sulu and Rand show up. So I feel like because Leonard Nimoy took those first steps and finally agreed to be in this episode, it just paved the road for all of the other cameos. Because I